All right, film family, we are back on Play It Forward today. We have Jamie Gagnon. Jamie Gagnon, I liked it. Filmmaker, writer, director, producer. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you, Cassia.
Thank you so much. How'd I do on your name?
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. I mean, it's an easy name to mess up, and you did really well. I always say like it's like filet mignon, like gaillon, and
Gagnon.
just the GNON sound that French have. I don't know why, but
It
that's
is,
my
they got
name.
that style, they got that flair.
Exactly.
Well, you are a filmmaker, writer, director, and producer. You produce your own stuff like all of us indie filmmakers out there. And we're going to be talking about AutoSlay. And before we do, can you please set up, a little more information about you as a person, as a filmmaker, and then introduce AutoSlay as a narrative for us?
Sure, absolutely. So my name's Jamie. As we discussed, I'm from originally from northern Maine, a very small town called Fort Kent, and I kind of grew up in a little remote area with very few things to do, a lot of freedom, a lot of creativity, and then I eventually moved out to Los Angeles about 10 years ago now,
Wow.
and I've been making shorts, music videos, working on a feature now to shoot back east. Just trying to keep busy and try to keep all the irons in the fire. My wife and I write, produce, and direct a lot of things together.
Oh,
So
cool.
she's my like partner and everything. So it's really great. And, and now we have a
That's,
newborn 3 week old baby. So
oh, man, you're in deep,
so
bro.
so if I'm tired, that's you know why.
Oh, well, congratulations. You are in it. Oh
Yeah.
man, do I know that life so well? Like the irons in the fire, even using that as a context of just, doing the grind as a creative filmmaking artist, trying to get paid and have a family. And it's quite a undertaking, and it sounds like you're doing it gracefully. Well, with that said, can you introduce AutoSlay?
Yeah, sure. So AutoSlay is a short I had made as part of a group called Just Scare Me. The person who nominated me for your show, Mary O'Neill, was the co-creator of that. It's like a film accountability group, a horror short community in LA where every 2 months we sign up for a round. You're on the hook for a horror short between now 1 and 6 minutes long, or you pay the group $100. So it was like
That's cool.
it's an accountability. It's a deadline. It's kind of a fire under your ass to get something made. And this was the second one I ever made with them years ago, and it's such a special piece for me because we gave it a lot of work. Put a lot of money behind it, put a lot of time behind it, and Autoslay is essentially this girl named Cassie. She has this like app for horror streaming. She starts to watch these shorts and starts to understand that these people look like her, and there's some kind of connection there. And then you realize that can interact with the screen, and then the monster comes for her.
Let me put a little more meat on the bone, the way I
Yeah,
digested it as a narrative. You've got this lead character. She starts out by, she makes some commentary about she's kind of tired of like the dating scene, going out, partying. It's a night at home. She's taking care of herself. You imagine maybe it's a Saturday night, Friday night. She went out, danced, drank, whatever. And now she's just going to do her thing, be alone. And this idea of you know creating self intimacy, self care, self nurturing, some sort of um is the beginning, and then we kind of dive into this context of like this interaction with the screen and watching how like okay these horror scenarios are seemingly very close to her in, mirroring her own life in some context. And we have some ideas of, being alone, being a victim, something about, some power struggle between the unknown, the scary monster, who's like sadistic and there's no real reason other than blood and guts kind of thing. Like there's no real context around the monster. It's just the monster is a monster for the monster's sake of evil and vengeance and the bloodlust kind of a thing. And then we see towards the end, like she gets pulled into well, he comes out of the screen, she's kind of pulled into the screen, so this merging within this context. So think of it as like this merging, the monster coming out of the box, and it starts off as like, oh, let's have fun just scaring myself and whatever, and getting excited, getting my adrenaline up, right? Like the partying, getting exciting, getting in my adrenaline. Now the horror, getting excited, the stimulants, right?
yeah,
And then the stimulants kind of are no longer contained, right? So this lust, this identity, this desire to get high or get aroused is not containable within a safe space. Kind of analyzing the narrative from that perspective. How do I do? Am I off? Am I on? Am I in the ballpark?
No, that's a great take. It stemmed from this idea of being a watcher versus a doer, and that's kind of something I struggled with all my life. Like I grew up, like I said, in a small town. There was not much to do, so you had to be creative and you had to get out and express yourself. And I feel like you can get lost in consuming versus creating, and I think that's what this short
Lost in
represents.
consuming?
Consuming, like
Consuming.
consuming content, taking
Consuming.
it in and never actually
Right.
interacting. And
Right.
that's
Right.
kind of the
Right.
impetus of her story. Yeah, she rejects her friends, she rejects doing something more social and decides to like hunker down at home. And the entity, the monster, is a physical representation of her, of that loneliness you have when you stare at that black screen and you kind of just get lost in something. And if you're not too careful, it can suck you in. That's kind of the idea.
I
But
love that. Thank you,
yeah.
man. Thank you. I went kind of on a moral tip and you went more on a sort of a socio-psychological tip of like that's and I love that. That's so there and so important. You briefly said how it comes from your own experience growing up in a small town, but can you talk more about where that struggle lives or lived? Now it's different because you're making these films, but where did that struggle live and perhaps still live in you?
It stems from, I'm going to get deep now. When I was
Yeah,
18,
thank you.
when I was 18, I was diagnosed with leukemia, AML, the adult version. And at that point, up to that point, I really didn't have any like aspirations as a kid. I wasn't going to like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a basketball player. Like all the other kids in class had their stories, had their plans in place. And I just like, oh, I like movies. I'll make movies. Like I didn't understand the context, the behind the scenes, the intricacies that are behind making films. I just liked what they were and what they represented. Nothing else ever came close to it. So when I had cancer just out of high school, I didn't have anything accomplished yet. So that my whole life was at that point just ready to start. So after I got out of the hospital about 7, 8 months later,
Gee,
uh,
you were in the
yeah,
hospital for that long.
I mean, I'd go home in between, but my
Yeah.
longest stint was 42 days in a row. And that was because I was so far away from northern Maine. I was so far away from the actual hospital. That experience has really put a fire under me, in a way that my second chance was really like take two of my first chance. And so I really needed to, push myself and get out of that, again, that consumer mentality and to make something and be creative. And so I started writing more. I started making like, I got a camcorder, just like a little Sony Handycam, started making things just because I was like, I hadn't done enough yet. And I just started,
Wow.
like, I can't be taken away too before I do anything.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was an interesting thing.
Wow.
So
That's amazing, man. So are you cancer free now?
yeah, been over 20, almost
That's
23
amazing.
years now. Yeah.
My God, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's amazing, man. There's so many incidences of like artists or uh, people who go on to we all make a contribution and I don't want to kind of get on the thinking where if it's recognized it's bigger than some contribution that's not recognized,
Mm.
but there are people that have made these contributions and there's a common theme where they have these early childhood illnesses. It's not uncommon. It does light a fire. You say, hey, if I'm going to live, what am I going to leave behind? That idea is one that, the first things that popped in my mind, the Buddha talks about the five hindrances, and one or some of those are sloth and torpor. I guess one or two of them, depends how you count it. And that natural innate kind of thing in us to, I'm too tired. It's too hard. It's cold outside. Maybe they're gonna laugh at me. And so how do you like say, okay, well, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna show up for myself. I'm gonna show up. And so that's a huge hurdle and can be more or less for, depending on the Constitution, huge lesson. So now that, you've got years under your belt of showing up, you're, performing in all these different contexts as a filmmaker, husband. You have all these different roles with relation to filmmaking. Here we are, we're reviewing your movie. We're talking about the meaning and the context now based on your history. And we now have a clear understanding of where it came from, where it lives in you from a deep place, that monster of not playing your music, so to speak, right? And in that terms, the music that lives in you and dying with it buried in you. So here you are, you're playing your music, and now we're talking about your film and that meaning, when you see the film now, what does it bring up in you? What does it make you feel that you're like, oh yeah, I get this now about myself or how I'm living in the world?
It's hard to separate. I feel like it definitely brings up some different thoughts in me because it was such a wild experience to shoot it. My dad had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer
Oh
like
geez.
the week before, and then he died the next day.
Oh my
And
God.
like he just kind of like gave up. And so
The
we
next
were
day of what?
next day after his diagnosis, like he was about to leave this hospital. He had something else going on, and then
He was
he, oh,
diagnosed and died the next day.
yeah, yeah. So he and they gave him like weeks, and he just left earlier. And so we were in the process of pre-production of this short. I got this location, I'd spent all this money, I got this makeup effects artist. Like there were a lot of things that I had in motion, and so I didn't want to cancel the shoot. My dad always so proud of me coming out here and doing my thing. He never understood it. Like he was diesel mechanic. He wasn't really creative in any way, but he really understood that I needed this in my life. So we went to the funeral. We were there back east 36 hours. We traveled 6 hour flight, 3 hour drive after that to get to my old hometown, and then flew right back the next night and drove to our location from LAX to get to the shoot. And we shot all night over daylight savings time. So we had an extra hour of darkness, and it was a fall, the exhaustion, the emotional draining of losing your family member and having to bury them, and all that stuff comes to mind when I think of the short. But
Holy
only
shit.
only in a proud way. Like it doesn't feel like a tragedy. It feels like a triumph because I'm able to overcome all of this and make this short and shoot it all in one night. And so I'm really proud of the cast and crew because of our ability to do this, especially my wife. And she was there with me the whole time, and it was a long, arduous shoot. But so it's a sense of pride I have when I
Yeah.
look at the short.
It seems like a cathartic experience to be able to, you didn't have any warning with your father's passing.
No, no, it was very sudden. So we were planning to go for Thanksgiving later that month. We still ended up going twice. We went again, but yeah, it was a very sudden situation.
So to do that, to go back and finish the work that you started, knowing that your father would have wanted you to do that, certainly I can understand or I appreciate like how or empathize with, the grief that you must have been feeling and
Mm.
putting that into the work, just focusing on the work and probably that being kind of a healthy, way to exhaust your energies with that. How do you think that, you know, this meaning that we're still trying to get at within your own life and how you've, and the circumstances. And, I talk to so many filmmakers and it's virtually always a cathartic process, no matter what they're doing, how slapstick it might be. To have that cathartic experience and yet, such a personal experience and then again, we're creating a narrative and that narrative is sending out a message to a public within the context of how they're living their own lives. So, how do you see that message that you've sent out to the public in terms of, is it a cautionary tale? What is a universal takeaway that can enrich our lives from AutoSlay?
It is a call to action. Say yes more often. Do more things that challenge you, that scare you. Don't let life pass you by. Don't sit there watching it pass by. Especially coming from my background with cancer, like everything's very important to me. Like just getting up, seeing a beautiful sunrise, and then feeling that cool air in your face, the cold temperature right before the sun actually starts hitting you, like that stuff like that. You can't put a price on, and you can't just forget. Like, you have to remember, we're all gonna go some point, but enjoy what you have when you can, and make the best life you possibly can in that moment, in that time.
Thank you, Jamie. Jamie Gagnon, filmmaker, writer, director, producer. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your work, yourself, and your experience and wisdom. Um, Everybody, we're out on Play It Forward. Jamie, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thank you. Likewise, honor. All right, everybody, peace out.